looking at some weight gain, cholesterol and blood pressure increases. Indicates a trend we really don't like to see at your age. Well, most of these issues can be treated with some serious lifestyle changes.
Well, what the heck? My life doesn't have much style anyway.
I'm going to write a prescription for this until we can get the cholesterol under control. I'm sorry, it's rather expensive.
Expensive? Well, can't I take the generic version?
Mr. Brown, there's some things you just don't want to cheap out on.
All right.
And let's talk about nutrition. Since I suspect you'll probably ignore my advice anyway,
Probably.
I'm going to write an additional prescription for this. Salmon, 3 times weekly.
Salmon?
It's full of omega-3 fatty acids and other heart-healthy nutrients.
What kind of salmon?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So you won't write me a prescription for a generic drug, but when it comes to salmon, any old fish will do.
Salmon.
Salmon. You know, I don't know where you got your training, doctor, but I can tell you this. If you're going to go around writing prescriptions for fish, you ought to get your ichthyological ducks in a row, okay? I suppose you're going to tell me that you know, Pacific wild king salmon and farmed Atlantic salmon are the same thing.
Well, they are.
Well, they... You know what? I got half a mind to drop a dime on you. Find out what the AMA thinks about your attitude.
There's no reason
to continue this relationship. You are absolutely right. Now just give me my sucker and I'll get on with my... And so that's when the guy actually looks right at me and says, salmon.
Amazing. Did you contact the AMA?
Oh, did I? Dropped a dime on him that afternoon. They hung up on me. My current standing with the medical community may be strained, but at least I'm solid with my fishmonger, an individual who is especially helpful when it comes to issues of salmon. My good man, I notice you've got several examples here, but you've got one that's $7.99 and another one that's $20. What's the deal?
This one is farm raised and this one is wild.
The big issue, wild versus farmed, expensive versus cheap, nature versus nurture. Now let's compare the two by first examining the life cycle of a wild salmon. Our hero was born way up some cold freshwater stream where his family has been hatching for countless generations. Now when he's just a small little fry, he heads down into the big ocean where he swims far and wide, 2 to 7 years depending on his species, feasting all the while on Poseidon's rich buffet. Shrimp cocktails are especially appreciated. Yep, it's a wild life. But then one day, he gets a funny itch, an urge, an inkling to get back home. And if he makes it upstream past the hydroelectric dams and bears and whatnot, he'll make it, thanks to a mysterious type of biophysical GPS. Now, once there, he hooks up with a mate, spawns, and then promptly goes belly up. Whoa. Back up. Let me out of here. Now, since our hero lived his life to the fullest and his body wanted to prepare for that long upstream swim, by the time he reached the mouth of the river, where the fishermen were waiting for him, of course, his body was at its succulent, flavorful, and fatty best. And now, let us consider the contrasting existence of the farm-raised fish. He's born into a nice, safe hatchery tank, far away from any predators or discomfort. But pretty soon, he's chucked into an offshore pen with a few thousand of his other friends. Now, unchallenged and bored, he grows fat on fish food, which is chock full of ground-up other fish that he would never eat in nature, and has taxanthin, which adds color to his otherwise gray flesh. When he hits market weight, he meets his end, often by either an electrical shock or a blow to the hip. Oh. All right, that's it. Look, I'm not going to tell you not to buy farmed salmon, because I'd rather you eat farmed salmon than no salmon at all. But trust me when I tell you, when it is available, wild salmon is well worth the investment. So, is there another reason for having all of this salmon?
Well, there are different varieties.
Indeed, there are. In the spring, The Pacific brings big old king or Chinook salmon. Then in summer, the silver or coho come to answer the call of the wild. The sockeye, whose deep red flesh is my personal favorite, run all the way from spring to fall. Two other varieties are common, the chums, aka Cada, and the smaller pinks. They're available sometimes all the way till October, though more often than not they end up in cans. Point is, by the end of fall, most of the wild salmon, gone. I say most because kings sometimes arrive out of season in California, Oregon, and Washington, but those fish rarely, if ever, leave the local markets. Oh, as for farmed Atlantic salmon, they're pretty much always available, and they're easy to recognize by their large dark spots and their stubby, underdeveloped fins. All right, anything else?
Well, there is the whole,
Oh, yeah, the thing we talked about. Look, you have got to stop thinking that fresh and raw are the same thing. I mean, if we define fresh as the closest condition to live, then in many cases, well, frozen wins. In fact, fish that are flash frozen immediately after capture and kept at a proper frozen temperature are considered by many, including us, as being much better than fresh or raw. That said, we don't want any refrozen or re-thawed product. That would mean ice damage, and ice damage is never good eats. Your best fish investment, though, get yourself one of these. Primum non nocere. First, do no harm. Although it's a phrase most often associated with medical students, it's an excellent kitchen motto, especially when wild salmon is concerned. After all you really have to do is not mess it up. Now, ideally, you would cook your fish the day that you bought it, but hey, the real world, right? So proper storage is critical. What I like to do is I like to keep the fish on ice, but I don't want it to waterlog. So here's what I do. I've got a bed of ice with some foil. The fish goes on top of the foil, and this box is full of holes, right? And so the ice can melt and drain into another container below. And I've just got a couple of pastry rings in the bottom to give a bit of elevation. This rig will keep the fish without adding ice, probably for about 3 days. After that, you need to cook your fish. Wild salmon all but demand simple cooking. After all, they've got plenty of flavor. They don't need you to bring anything else to the party. But just as you should not confuse fresh with raw, don't think for a moment that simple is synonymous with easy. Okay? I mean, for unlike, say, a T-bone steak, which is relatively uniform in size and shape, salmon cuts, well, they cover a wide range. But consider, for instance, these 3 parcels. They all weigh within about 2 ounces of each other. But the way that you would want to get heat into, say, this piece is very, very different from the way you would approach this piece, and that is why the wise cook will always approach wild salmon with at least 3 different cooking methods. Method 1, pan searing. But instead of using my favorite stainless steel, I want to use less fat, so I'm going with a 10-inch non-stick skillet placed over medium heat. Now, it should be noted that the miraculous material lining that pan over there was invented by complete accident in 1938. This is the one, by one Dr. Roy J. Plunkett, who was working with a refrigerant called tetrafluoroethylene, which spontaneously polymerized into polytetrafluoroethylene, a white, waxy solid, which is chemically inert, well, almost, and quite possibly the slipperiest substance on Earth. Now, the military originally put it to good use, coating parts inside the original atom bombs and also lubricating the nose cones on missiles. Later, a French fisherman put it on his net. He then got the wise idea of applying it to his wife's pan. Leave it to the French, right? Amazing. All right, the pan feels good, so out with 2 6-ounce coho or silver fillets. But glove first. Typically, salmon pin bones are pulled before the side is broken down into individual fillets, but some megamarts skip this step to save time. So always check by running your finger down the sides of the cuts. That's usually where you're going to find them. Now, if you find one, you must remove it. Somebody could choke on it. And needle nose pliers are the best tool for the job, okay? So just get a grip right on the end of the bone and try to pull in the direction of the muscle grain so that you don't tear as you extract. Since they're sticky and sharp, we'll be sure to evacuate these from the scene before proceeding. Now, the rest of the prep, we'll need a little bit of lube. Oil will enhance browning and, of course, make sure that it doesn't stick to the pan. A little bit of salt, actually a little more than you think you'll need. I'm figuring about a 1/4 teaspoon overall. Get that glove off and grind on fresh black pepper. There, now into the pan. And make sure you give them plenty of room to breathe. Now, there are dozens of different fish flipping implements on the market, but this is my absolute favorite. It is nylon, so it is safe on no-stick surfaces and relatively heat-resistant, although, as you can see, it doesn't like a direct flame too much. It is semi-flexible, it is slotted for reduced friction, and it has a slight upturn at the end. It can be used up like this or turned over like this, depending on what you are attempting to manipulate. Okay, for fillets in the 6 to 8 ounce range, we're looking for a total cook time of 4 minutes. Now, if the pieces were flatter, I'd go with 2 minutes on each side, but these are blocky enough to have, well, 4 sides. So I'm going to go 1.5 minutes on each of the big sides and 30 seconds on the stubby little ends there. Now, frankly, I would rather use a timer over a thermometer during this process, because when finished, these pieces will actually encompass a wide range of donenesses, from medium at the thin flap all the way up to almost rare at the head. If I tried to just use a thermometer, who knows exactly what I would hit. So when your fillets are finally done, evacuate to a clean plate. Those look good. And cover loosely with foil. Let them rest for 5 minutes. Now, in our sauté scenario, very high heat moves via conduction, that is direct contact, very quickly into the meat. Now, this blitzkrieg inward thermal march creates a tasty sear on the outside and creamy, moist goodness within. But fresh from the fire, there's still a lot of heat wandering around like marauding soldiers in here. If we go just slicing into the meat, that heat will come rushing out, bringing lots of juice with it. By allowing the meat to rest for a while, the heat will naturally abate and the juice will stay where it belongs, in here instead of out here. Gorgeous fish and tasty, and all we had to do is exercise primum non nocere. Now, a simple side salad with a little homemade vinaigrette adds a nice acidic counterpoint to the slight gaminess of the fish. But you know what? What if we were dealing with a much thicker piece of fish? Let's say that you wanted to cook up this big, tall king or Chinook salmon fillet, which has got to weigh, I don't know, 10 to 12 ounces. Nice dinner for two. Now, we could certainly cook this up in our pan just as before, but with this much mass, it would be very, very difficult to manage all of the heat. The far better bet is to go with what is called bi-level cooking. First step, make sure that your oven rack is right slap dab in the middle of the box and crank the heat to 475. Although we do need a pan for our big old hunk of Chinook or king salmon, we don't want to go with non-stick because it can release dangerous fumes at high oven temperatures. So this time, we'll go with good old-fashioned stainless steel set over medium heat. Let this pan heat for 2 minutes. No more, no less. Now, as to the fish, we will lube much as before. First, feeling for pin bones, and no, I'm not petting it. Here we go, a little bit of oil, just enough to cover. If we get too much, we'll get a smoky mess. Salt to cover, I can't say how much because it should be enough. Off with the glove, then the black pepper. Now, if you want to know if your pan is really hot enough, go over, get yourself a little water. That's hot enough. It evaporates without dancing around too much. This time I'm shaking the fish in the pan to make sure that it does not stick. All right, let this cook for 3 minutes. No shaking, no poking, no prodding. Just let it be. Our big old king fillet has been cooking for 3 minutes. It's time to flip and move to the next phase of cooking. And into the hot oven for exactly 5 minutes. How can I be so sure about the time? Well, because I've got one of these in here. I'm sure that you've got one in your oven, too. No? Ooh, we better have a talk. Listen, if you think that that flashing light on the front of your oven or the number on the little knob is a truthful representation of what's going on inside that box, I got news for you. Ovens lie. Or at the very least, they tell you what they think you want to hear. You see, there's so many factors. I mean, the size and shape of the oven, where the heating elements are, where the food is, and how much food's in there all affect the actual heat situation going on in there. So, in other words, you can't really trust it, but you can spy on it, and that helps. Now, basically, there are two different types of thermometer that are designed to reside in there 24/7. Now, they're round dials, and they are always armed with a little coil in the back and side, and that coil is made out of two different kinds of metal that are laminated together, and they expand and contract at different rates, and that means as the oven gets hotter or cooler, this coil opens up or closes. That moves the dial. They're easy to read, they're cheap, and almost completely unreliable. What I depend on are old-fashioned bulb-style thermometers like this. Some of them still actually have mercury in them, and others have a dyed alcohol, actually, that's a little easier to read than the mercury. This model, made to hang on a rack, very convenient. If you have a flat-bottomed oven, you might want like one of these stand models. Whatever you do, go for something that's very, very easy to read and position it halfway between the wall and the center of the oven. I still don't trust it. All right, time to extract. We will get this out of the pan and into a clean plate. It's also cool, which is important. We still need to rest, of course, so we'll cover with foil, and this time, yeah, go with 5 to 10 minutes. Well, as you can see, the king is well rested. Darn delicious stuff, I'll tell you. Crispy brown on the outside, slightly pink in the center, which is exactly how you know you want it. By the way, my advice, if anyone ever asks you to prepare wild salmon well done, just feed them the farm stuff. They won't know the difference. Anyway, this is good and good for you, packed with those omega-3 fatty acids that your doctor has been nagging you about. Well, what exactly is an omega-3? Well, let's take a microscopic look at the end of a fatty acid, okay, just the very end of the molecule. We know that this is an unsaturated fatty acid because it's got at least one double bond between those carbons over there. And you notice that puts kind of a kink in the molecule. Now, if the last double bond occurs 3 atoms down from the end, or omega of the molecule, then you've got yourself an omega-3 fatty acid, and there are a lot of different examples of those, and there aren't too many places to get them. Nothing's better than wild salmon, in fact. So eat up, and you'll keep the old pill pusher man at bay. Let us now contemplate this luscious-looking side of sockeye. Now, technically, it is thin enough to saute, but I'd have to cut it into several pieces to fit into a pan, and, you know, I'd really like to serve it intact. Now, the grill would be an option, but once the fat in there warms and starts to render out, flame-ups would be inevitable, and at $15 plus a pound, I really don't want to face that particular type of fire. And of course, there's turning, always treacherous with this size and shape. Luckily, most ovens have a broiler, which is nothing but a grill turned upside down. And since we can control the distance between the heat and the fish, we can ensure perfect doneness without having to flip at all. And that opens up some interesting flavor augmentation options. Grab your food processor, and if you've got a mini work bowl, you might want to insert that. Now, into that goes 1/3 cup of dark brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of lemon zest, and yes, that needs to be fresh. We'll also need some salt, 1½ teaspoons of kosher, should do the trick. And then finally, black pepper, which I like a lot with salmon. 1/2 teaspoon will do. There. Now just buzz that until it is thoroughly combined. There. Now, you're going to want to put your fish out on some foil on top of the pan because when the sugar melts, it's going to stick a bit. And then just smooth on that mixture. Pat it, don't push down too hard. Now, this is going to need to just sit at room temperature for 45 minutes. Now, position your broiler rack so that the salmon will be 3 inches from the heat. Crank your broiler to its highest setting and wait for 2 minutes. Slide in your fish for 6 to 8 minutes or until the exterior is golden brown and delicious and the deepest part of the interior temps at 131 degrees, give or take a degree or two. All right, time is up and the fish looks good. Now, we do need to rest, but because I don't want that crust to get gummy from steam, I'm going to leave it uncovered for 5 to 10 minutes. I'll be back. As for serving, I say keep it simple. All sides are completely optional. Heck, I say the fork's even optional. Delicious. It's like a creme brulee, only lemony and salmony, but with just as much delicious flavor. Now, I hope that we've given you the confidence and the techniques to help you face the wild salmon. The best 20 bucks per pound you'll ever taste. Just remember, buy quality, store it properly, and above all together now, primum non nocere. Next time, well, maybe we'll tackle something a little bigger. See you next time.